was built to last with the webs I'm weaving. I could change the past with the hope of achieving. Got my foot.
Hi creative minds, welcome back to the channel. If you are a subscriber, and welcome if you are joining us for the first time, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, and also while you're at it, there's a notification bell you need to put on so you get notification whenever I upload a new videos. So yeah, so little backstory, this stuff was partially requested and then partially what I have always wanted. Yeah, I saved the picture long time before the request came, but I had no plans of making it. I just saved it because I liked it and I knew I was going to make it one day. But then I got a request and I knew that it is a sign for me to make it. I uploaded pictures on the community and you guys were like, yes, the top. And I'm like, yeah, we're going to make it. So this top was originally created by Sandra Lawrence. That is her name on Instagram. So in case you want to check her out, go check her out. And yes, if you're a beginner, don't be looking like, oh, let me just watch and not create. You can be able to create this. What you have to do is go watch my previous video on the tools you need to start sewing. So go get those tools and start creating. And don't miss out on making this your first project, okay? If you're able to understand my videos and decide to follow, you also can be able to get those things, recreate those things. So yeah, thank you for joining me. And you guys, without no further ado, let's start making it. I'm just going to start off by creating the front pattern. And on my cutting table here, I have my pattern paper. I am using a cardboard paper for this project. And I'm just going to indicate a starting line. So this is necessary for you to do. Go ahead and indicate your starting line. And then we'll go into the step 1. Now, step 1 is for us to mark our points. That's our vertical measurements. And yeah, my starting line here is my chest point. So the measurement you need is on the screen. My chest point to this point is my starting line. And now, because my chest point is 7 inches, I am just going to take away 7 inches from my tape. So from my shoulder to my chest point, that is 7 inches. So I'm just going to take away 7 inches from my tape. So I'll place my tape from 7 inches. I'll go down and mark my bust line. So what we just did, or what I just did, is minus 7 inches because that is my chest line, which is the first line. Now from the chest line, which is 7 inches, I'm going down, which is my bust line. Why we are starting off with the first point as the chest line is because this is an off shoulder top, okay? So this is my bust line. And I'll go ahead and place my tape again on the chest line, minusing 7 inches. I'll mark my waist line. So 7 inches is the first line. I'll mark my waistline. And for this project, I'll be making my waistline 15 inches. And you guys, the measurement is on the screen. So go ahead and look at the measurement I am taking. Take that on your body and mark that on your pattern. So this is my waistline. Step 2 is for us to divide our measurements. That is our round measurements. And the first thing we're going to do is on the chest line, I will be dividing my shoulder measurements by 2. So my shoulder measurements divided by 2 gives you 7.5. And that is what I'll be marking on my chest line. You guys remember that your shoulder measurements, you have to divide that by 2 and mark that on your chest line. Now I'll go ahead and divide my round bust by 4 and mark that down on my bust line. And now the step 3 is for us to create the armhole. Now to be able to create the off shoulder armhole, what we're going to do is from the chest line, I'll mark down 2.5 inches. So I'm just going to place my tape from the chest line, from the point where I have my 7.5 sitting on the chest line. I'll place my tape there and go down by 2.5 inches. This is just going to enable me create my off shoulder armhole. I'll connect both points together with a straight line. And just as we always do when we're creating the main armhole, we just rule an horizontal line. I'll do that here. I'll rule an horizontal line. So what I'll do next is connect my bust measurement, which I marked on the bust line. I'll connect it up to the armhole line like this. And now I'll go ahead and create the curve. So I'm using my curve ruler, and if you don't have a curve ruler, just use your free hand and create a curve to create your off-shoulder armhole. Okay, so this is my curve, and I'm just going to continue by dividing my round waist by 4 and mark that down. So we're supposed to do that when we're dividing measurements. I'm back to it. I'll divide my round waist by 4 and mark that down on my waistline. So I'll go ahead and connect my waistline to my bust line like this. Now this next step is for us to be able to create the effect, this effect on the front. And to do that, that's our center front. And to do that, I'm just going to place my tape from my waistline and I'll mark 7 inches down. So I'll mark 7 inches down from my waistline. And this is my new length. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and mark 3 inches in from that 7 inches. So I'll just mark 3 inches in so that we can be able to get that effect that we have on the center front of the top. I will have it here on the pattern. So I'm marking 3 inches in. I'll connect it with a line. I'll just square it up like this. And now I can go ahead and connect this point straight to my waist. So this is 3 inches in case you missed that. This is 3 inches. And what I have to do now is connect my waist to this point. And this automatically gives us that effect we have on the front top. So the center front, this effect, this is how I was able to achieve it. Now moving on to the step 5. Step 5 is for us to add allowance and cut. So I'll be adding 1 inch as my allowance. You can add ½ inch, you can add 1 inch, it's up to you. For me, I'll be adding 1 inch because I'm just going to be turning my front and my back with lining. So I'm adding the 1 inch on the sides and I'll also add that on the length. So once I am done, I'm just going to cut this out. So this is my front pattern. On the chest line, I'm just going to cut out the extra allowance we have on the pattern, leaving ½ inch. So I'm going to leave ½ inch on the top. And that ½ inch is just because we are turning this with the lining. So this is the front pattern. And you guys, let's start creating the back pattern. So the back pattern is very, very simple to create. All we have to do now is bring out a fresh pattern paper. Go ahead and place your front on the fresh pattern paper, and we're going to trace from the waistline to the armhole and to the chest line. We're just going to follow the shape like this. So we're going to avoid the 7 inches we came down by. That does not have anything to do with the back. Go ahead and trace from the waist, and I'm just going to go to the armhole and then to the chest. Like that. So ignore the 7 inches. This is the point we need for our back. And you guys, the back is actually very easy to create. So I'm just going to square up the line here. That's at the waist. And for me to just have my points indicated on this, I'll bring back my front pattern and place this just to indicate my bust line. I just want to know where my bust line is. So I'm just indicating it back so I can rule a line and have that on my back pattern. So this is my waistline. This is my bust line. Now this next is an optional step. So for me, I want the back neckline to drop. And for that, I'll be marking 1.5 inch up from the bust line. So that is why I indicated my bust line on the pattern, because I want to mark 1.5 inch up. You can use 1 inch, you can use 1.5, you can use 2, or you can just leave it like that. actually what we are trying to recreate, she did not drop the back. She actually did it like this. So that is why I say this step is optional. So now I have indicated 1.5. I'm just going to connect that back to the armhole. So this is optional. You can decide to just leave your back like this. You don't need to drop it. I just wanted to drop mine. So you don't need to do that if you want to achieve the Sandra Lawrence creation. So step 2 is for me to add my allowance and cuts. So before I cut out my back pattern, I'm just going to add my allowance, and I'm adding 1/2 inch allowance on the top and on the down, because I'm going to be turning this with a lining. That is why I'm adding 1/2 inch at the bottom, and then I'll add at the neckline, the back neckline. So like I said, the dropping of the back neckline is optional. If you want to achieve what we have, what we are trying to recreate, the Sandra Lawrence creation, you don't need to drop your back neckline, okay? So now I have all allowance added. I'm just going to go ahead and cut out my pattern, you guys. The back pattern is actually very, very simple to create. And yes, for us to be able to add loops to this, we have to take out 2 inches from the center back. So that is the next thing we're going to be doing. I'll be taking out 2 inches from the center back pattern. So step 3 is adjusting the center back, which is the minusing of 2 inches from the center back. So in case you don't know, this is going to be the center back. Here is the center back. Where you have the armhole is the side, and this part is the center back. So I'm just going to mark 2 inches, and that 2 inches is going to be cut out so we can add loops to this and lace it up, okay? So 2 inches is what I'm taking out. You can take out more, you can take out 3, you can take out 2.5. It depends on what you want, okay? So this is 2 inches in case you missed it, and this part is going to be cut out. So I hope the beginners are actually getting the steps. Please let me know in the comment section, and while you're at it, like this video, okay? Now this is my back pattern and this is the front, and you guys, let's start cutting this on a fabric. So sewing step 1 is for us to place the pattern on folded fabrics and cut. I have done that offline or off the camera, and for the front, we're going to be talking about the front first. So I'll take the back aside, and this is my front, and I have cut out 2 pieces for this. Now why do I have 2 pieces? Like I said, I have the main piece and then I will have the lining. So I'm using the same fabric as the lining. If you don't have that option, you can use any other fabric. Just make sure the color matches, okay? So yeah, I have 2 pieces, 1 main piece and 1 lining. And for my back, I have 4 pieces. My back pattern, I went ahead to cut out 4 pieces. 2 of the pieces are the main piece and 2 of the other pieces are the lining. So this is the main piece. You can see how it looks. And this is the linings. I'm just going to place the lining on it so you see. These are the linings. So make sure you have 4 pieces of your back piece, and let's move on. Step 2 is for us to join the back and the front piece together, and also join the front and the back piece of the linings together. Let me show you guys what I mean. So here is my main piece for the front piece. I'm just going to bring out the back piece, and this goes here. So this is the main piece, and this is the main piece of the back piece with the front. I'll sew by 1/2 inch here on the armhole side. I'll bring in the other side of it so you see. So sew by 1/2 inch. I'll bring in this one and it sits here, this armhole, and I'll sew by 1/2 inch. So do the same thing for the lining. Let's go to the sewing machine, you guys. So this is it. When I say sew by 1/2 inch, this is how much you need to take out for the beginners. In case you're wondering, I don't even know what 1/2 inch is. This is just, you just need to sew in a little bit and stop here. Make sure you backstitch, okay? And if you don't know what back stitching means, I'm just going to be showing you what it means, or talking about it on my next episode 2 on the sewing terms, okay? And I did the same thing for the lining. So I have my lining sewn already. So this is the lining, and the other one is the main piece. So yeah, I have all of them sewn together. Step 3 is for us to create fabrics for the loops. Now, because we are going to be lacing this up, we need to create fabrics for the loops, and this is how I do that, or this is how you can do that. I cut out fabric that is 1.5 inch wide. You can see I'm showing you here on my tape, 1.5 inch wide. I'm just going to fold the fabric into two, into the wrong side. So the right side is what I folded, and I'm sewing on the wrong side, and I'm just going to sew by 1/4 inch. So you fold it into two equal parts and sew by 1/4 inch. And make sure the fabric is as long as you want, because you need a lot of loops, okay? What I'll do now is I'll be using my needle to flip this to the right side. So I'm using my needle. This is how I always flip to the right side. There's something they actually use to do this that makes your job easier, but I don't have it yet. But for the main time, this is what I always do. So make sure you drag this carefully as you're trying to flip it to the right side. Just carefully take your time. If you're a beginner, you don't even need to rush nothing, because you need to understand the process so that the next time you can be able to create without watching the video, okay? So I have my fabric here, and this next step is optional. I'm just ironing this, so I have like flat edges. So this optional. If you don't have iron, you don't have light right now, you can still just go ahead and cut out your loops, okay? This is optional. So I'm ironing this to get a flat edge, and now I'm just going to cut 6 pieces of this, and each of the loop is 1.5 inch long. So later on I decided to make it 8, but right now I did 6 on the video. But later when I was trying to lace it up, I realized that I needed like to create more, and I used 8. So you can do 8, you can do 10, you can do it, up to you. So yeah, so these are my fabric for the loops. And step 4 is for me to place the loops on the back. So this is the main piece for my top, and I'll be using my pins for this next step. So what I'll do is, these are the fabrics I already cut out for the loops. I'm just going to start placing. Now before you place the first one, make sure you leave at least 1/2 inch space before you place your first loops, because we're going to be turning this with the lining. You need to have at least 1/2 inch space so you can sew the back neckline together, okay? So I left 1/2 inch before I placed my first loops, and I'm doing this on the right side of the fabric. You can see that my loops are sitting on the right side of the fabric. So when we sew and flip this, you can be able to see it. Yeah, your loops are going to be visible. So that is why I am placing it on my right side, the good side of the fabric. And right now what I was doing is giving at least 2 inches space from each loops, but then later I changed that up. I made extra 1 line of loops to make this 4. So yeah, you can do as much as you want, it's up to you. So right now I have done for this side and I have done for this other side. The next thing for me to do is sew my lining piece to the main piece. That is step 5. So my main piece has the loops pinned there. So this is my lining piece. I'm just going to place the lining piece on my main piece like this, and I'll be sewing everywhere in, leaving the armhole. So I'm just going to start from the back neckline. I'll sew 1/2 inch like this, and I'll get to this point. I'll continue with the 1/2 inch straight down, and then on the base continue 1/2 inch. Then I'll go to the front and sew by 1/2 inch. I'm closing everywhere in, leaving the armhole. So I'll sew here too by 1/2 inch, and I'm just going to continue like this to the other side of the back, 1/2 inch to this side. I'm closing everywhere in, okay? That is what you need to do. Close everywhere in, leaving your armhole. You guys, please let me know in the comment section if the steps are actually really easy and if you're able to create. And you guys, if you create this without sending me pictures, so when you're able to create yours and you love the results, you love the outcome, please let me know in the comment section. Send me pictures, like this video, also help me share, okay? So I'm taking my time and I'm sewing everywhere in by 1/2 inch, and I make sure that the armhole is open because we're going to be flipping this to the right side from the armhole before we attach the sleeves, okay? Now step 6 is for me to make notches. so that I can be able to flip this to the right side and it fits well. So this is me right now with my scissors. I'm just making little notches round the whole top, all the parts that I have sewn. I'm just making notches so that when I flip this to the right side, it sits properly, it doesn't look funny. So make these notches while I'm making it. Join me and do this, okay? Don't skip this step. Do not skip this step. It is absolutely important, okay? So after making my little notches, I'm just going to flip this from the armhole. You can see the armhole is open. I'm just going to flip this to the right side. So this is what we have. Please ignore the fact that I have 3 loops on each side. I told you guys that I later went ahead to make it 4. So yes, the space between the first and the second was too much, so I had to make it 4. So let's just go into the next step, which is ironing. So yeah, while I was ironing, I decided to just do something because I wanted this to really have this flat edge. I'm just going to use my hemming gum and place on the back neckline and also on the front neckline and on the base of my front so that it sits really flat. I don't know if you guys get what I mean. I want it to sit flat. I don't want the lining to move or the main piece because this fabric I'm using is actually stretchy and it's just too hard. It actually refused to sit flat after even ironing. So that is why I decided to use my hemming gun. So this stage or this step is optional. I'm using my hemming gun to just get flat edges at the back neckline and on the front neckline. And this is what I have. And the next step for me to take is for me to create the sleeves. So step 1 in creating the sleeves, I have to measure out the armhole on the top. So yes, so before I start creating the sleeves, I'm just going to place my tape on the armhole. Make sure you arrange it before you place your tape like this and measure out what you have. For me, I got 4.5 inches. So that is what I'll be working with. Now, the second step is for me to create the off-shoulder sleeves. And you guys, I have my fabric here folded into 2. The fabric is folded into 2, and I'm just going to show you guys the length. The length of this fabric is 30 inches. That is how long my sleeve fabric is. I use 30 inches as the length. And the width of my fabric is 16 inches. Now, why do I have 16 inches? I times my round armhole by 2. So my round armhole is 16 times 2 gives you 32. Now, the first thing I'm going to be doing here is fold in the top of my sleeve by 1 inch. Why am I doing this? I'm folding this in by 1 inch because I'll be using the allowance for my elastic. I'll be creating channel for elastic on the top of my sleeves. So this is the allowance I'm leaving out, and I went ahead to pin this down. Now the next thing for me to do is mark 2.5 inches down. After folding, make sure you place your tape from the folded part and go down by 2.5. Remember, this is what we use in creating the armhole on the top, 2.5 inches. So that's what I marked here. And then I'll mark 2.5 inches in. So I marked 2.5 inches down. And now I'm marking 2.5 inches in. I'll connect both points together. I'll take the line straight down like this. And then I'll take the line horizontally like this. And now I can be able to create the curve for my sleeve. So I'll go ahead and freestyle it. I'm not using a curve ruler. I'm just going to use my hand and make a curve. And then I'll cut this out. So right now I have created my off-shoulder sleeve. So if you are bigger than my size, you can go down by 3 inches and go in by 3 inches. That's if you are bigger than my size, you can do that. And now you guys, for the part where we have to sew the channels for the elastic, from the base of my sleeves, that's from the length, I'll go in like this by 8 inches. So you can see that my tape, I placed it from the length and I'm marking 8 inches in. And from that 8 inches, I'll mark 9 inches in. So from the 8 inches, I'll go up again by 9 inches. And this line I'm indicating is where I'm going to sew my bias and pass my elastic through. I'm just going to take off my pins and open this so I can have the line straight. So yeah, on this part here, we're going to be sewing this by 1/2 inch. We're folding twice by 1/2 inch. And we're going to be sewing to create channel for elastic at the top here. That is what I'll be doing. So yes, elastic is going to be sitting here. So I'll create the channel. And then this part here, I'm just going to open up the fabric and then make the line get to this side, because all this place I'm going to be sewing my bias to create channel for my elastic. Let's go to the sewing machine, guys. So this is the bias I'll be using, and you can see how the bias looks. In case you don't know what bias is, this is what bias looks like. So this bias now, I'll be sewing this on those lines I have indicated. And I'm just going to make 2 stitches on the bias and very, very close to the tips of the bias. Like I'm making 2 stitches and making sure that the space I leave in between my bias is enough for my elastic. Now the elastic I'm working with is the 1/2 inch elastic, and yes, that is why I am using the bias. If you're using a bigger elastic, a wider elastic, you can just go ahead and sew that on your fabric directly like that. Most people like to do that, but because I want to see clean finish on my top, I don't want to see the elastic. That is why I'm using a bias to do this. So I'm just going to sew 2 stitches. I've sewn one side and I'm sewing another side, and this is just going to create the channel for the elastic. So what I did here, I'll be doing on the other line I marked, that's 9 inches up from this 8 inches. I'll be doing the same thing. I'll be sewing my bias the same way I did it here. I'll be doing that on the other line, and I'll show you guys how it looks after sewing. So this is how it looks. You can see that I have space in between to pass an elastic, right? So yes. So you can see I have done that on the other line, and now I'll move to the armhole side. That's the sleeves armhole. I'm just gonna go ahead and fold this in twice, just as I said. Now making sure I have a space of 1/2 inch in what I'm folding so that I can pass my elastic through. So I'm hemming and leaving 1/2 inch space for my elastic. And what I'm doing right now is happening on the top of the sleeves where you have your armhole sitting. So that is done. We have to go ahead and pass the elastic through. So step 4 is for us to pass the elastic through the channels we've created. Now remember, we have 3 channels created on the top of the sleeves, 8 inches from the length and 9 inches from the 8 inches. Now the first, I'll be using an elastic that is 9 inches long, which I later reduced by 1 inch later. So that means I used 8 inches, right? So this is my elastic, and like I said, I'm using a 1/2 inch elastic, and this is how I always pass my elastic through any channel. I use my needle first. I secure it very well with my needle, and then I start passing the needle through the channel, and I'll drag and drag until my elastic passes through that channel, and then I'll just pin it down to hold it so it doesn't move. So that is the step I always go through when I'm passing my elastic. So once I was done, the next thing I did now is pass elastic through the channel I created for the top of the sleeves. And for that, I used a 9 inches long elastic. And actually reduced that later by 2 inches. You know, it is elastic, it stretches. So yeah. Make sure you're passing your elastic through all the channels you have created. Do not miss one point, okay? And like this video while you're at it, okay? So once that is done, I'm just going to pin everything down and sew in my sleeves. For me to be able to sew in the sleeves, remember you guys that after measuring the armhole on my top, I got 4.5. Now I'm just going to measure my sleeves and indicate that 4.5 on my sleeves. So that's what I'm doing. I'm indicating the 4.5 on the sleeves. And from that point, I'm just going to sew my sleeves from this point down to the length. So I'm just going to sew from this line down to the length. And I marked 4.5 because that is the exact thing I have on the armhole on the top. So make sure you measure your own armhole on the top. Find out what you have there, and that is what you're going to use to finally close in your sleeve. So that's what you're going to use to finally close in your sleeves, okay? So when you're about to attach your sleeve to the armhole on the top, it doesn't, something does not happen that either the sleeve is too long or the armhole is too long, so you have accuracy, okay? After closing in the sleeves, what I'll do next is hem the base of the sleeves, and I will hemming this by 1/2 inch. I'll fold in twice by 1/2 inch, and then I'll sew. And this is the final stage in creating the sleeves. So once you're done passing the elastic, you sew in your sleeves, close it in, and then you just hem the base of your sleeves. Step 5 is for me to attach the sleeves to the top, and this is like the almost last step. Now this is my sleeves and this is the top. What I will do is make sure that the armhole line, the line connecting the back and the front on the top, sits with the sleeves line, the middle line, okay? That's what I'm trying to get here. And once I have the middle line, I'm just going to go ahead and sew. And now you guys, why this is very easy for me to join is because I followed the measurement I got on my armhole on the top. I followed that measurement for my sleeve. So everything right now is equal. Everything is sitting properly. And I'm just sewing this in by 1/2 inch. So yeah, once you're done with this, you have the option of going to weave. You have the option of weaving this yourself if you have the overlock machine. But yes, this is it for me. I'm done creating the top. You guys, let me know what you think on the comment section. Let me know if these steps were easy. This is me trying to pass my strap through the loops I have created. Now for you to be able to create your straps just the same way we create the fabric for the loops, that is the same way you can create your straps, okay? Please do not forget to like this video. Don't forget to help me share. Comment if you have any question, if you have any suggestion, let me know in the comment section. And you guys, your comments and your likes are like encouragement, so go ahead and give it out, okay? I love you so much. Please let me know if you're able to create it. If you're a beginner, let me know, okay? And thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking with me to the end of this video. I'll be seeing you guys on my next video, okay? I love you guys so much. Bye for now.
All our insecurities are on this display. Is war with the enemy. Think that it was meant to be. Living in a time where disease is on every screen. I won't let them fester me. I know most are festering. Negativity is a plague for the mentally weak. No mercy, all I got is working. Never stop searching, never quite so thirsty. I'm toxic and psychotic, with this logic you can't stop it. It's been chronic since I was a boy, so neurotic and chaotic. I'm weaving, I could change the past with all I'm achieving. Got my foot on gas, never stop competing. If you break like glass, then this life's gonna